Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. We got a lot for you today. We got some NBA to get through. Most of these baseball games, MLB games, have already started. Maybe some live betting action there. And I got a little big house parlay for you if you didn't see that on Twitter already. So we're going to break that down as well. Let's bring in the boys. We'll go over the Wednesday recap. Frustrating recap just because we lost a lot of value through the day to get to this 5 p.m. show. But a lot of
time.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I just Darius Garland. I knew that 14.5 line I had early moved to 15.5 by showtime. He had 15, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It was inevitable. Yeah.
It was tough stuff there. I'm trying to think of who else. I was looking at Reeves last night. I was looking at potentially at his double-double, but I don't think that hit, so that makes me feel better. But we're back on some crazy plays today. I got 2 home run props. Courtesy
Did Conley play yesterday?
No, yeah. So we didn't have Conley, so that's not an X.
Yeah.
We only 3 and 4, but yeah. And then the Jaylen Brown one we had in the morning was 2.5 plus 245, dropped to 1.5 minus 195. He had 3 turnovers in the first half quarter. So, yeah. If you had followed me on Twitter, and there's a few of you do, you would have gone 4 and 3 for +1 unit instead of the 3 and 5. Minus 2.7 units.
Right. I'm looking at this baseball slate, Jake. Any early action that has your eye for in-game live betting right now?
I would say if the Tigers were down, I would bet them against the Mets, the winless Mets, who just can't get anything right, especially since the Tigers have a lot more bullpen options today. But they're up 1-0 early, but I wouldn't bet the Mets, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get the Mets at +144 or more, they have a man on first with 2 outs at the bottom of the second. Grab it.
It's the end of the second now.
Oh, well then.
Yeah.
We do it. Top of the third.
1-0.
So now Mets, if it's +156 or better, then it might be worth it. They can't lose every game.
Yeah, it's +175 on Hard Rock.
Take it. If our company didn't have a block.
I know, but we also don't the bullpen, who's available in the bullpen. We don't factor that in, and Detroit has a lot better options because the Mets already blew through most of their bullpen in the first game, and Detroit should have Faedo and Vest available, and so Detroit's looking better for the rest of the game.
Well, we could do it by manipulating the projected score to account for worse bullpen for the Mets and better and then we would have a number at +159.
Yeah. So the value is still in the Mets.
Yeah, based off vibes, and the Mets needing to win a game, I'm Team Mets on this live bet. But nonetheless, we'll keep an eye on these live betting options. Before we get into tonight's NBA slate, Jake's going to give us a lot more player props tomorrow for the Final Four, but I'd like to present to you guys the heavyweight big hoss parlay before we get to Jake's picks tomorrow. If you're looking to bet on all the big boys here, this is how we're doing it. We're getting close to +300 on this, clinging over half a steal. Jake came up with that part of the parlay. I like that a lot. He's gone over this in 4 of his last 5 games. He had 3 his previous game, actually. But then you look at Alabama, averaging 12 turnovers a game. Fast pace means there's a lot of opportunity there to steal the ball from them. They're bottom 100 in turnovers this season?
Yeah, 252nd out of around 350 teams. So,
yeah, which is pretty bad. And then we go to our boy DJ Burns.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're looking at our boy DJ Burns, over 2.5 assists here. A little scared about him maybe getting into foul trouble, maybe not being in an ideal rebound matchup situation, but double team down low, dishes it out to his teammates. We've seen this before. He's gone over this in his last 3 games as well. And then Edey, 12 plus rebounds here. You probably can get better value if you go for the over 12.5. But I just like the 12 plus because I know that should have a pretty good shot of hitting here. He's gone over this or hit at least 12 in his last 7 games. And he is objectively a lot taller than everybody else on the court, but that goes without saying. So if you're looking for get all the big boys in one pot of action here, may I suggest the big hoss parlay, but we'll get to Jake's picks later tomorrow. I will do more questions, more Q&A for the Final Four before I head out to Phoenix on Friday on my Spirit flight. Thank you very much. All right. Let's move on to the NBA here, to the association. Bring in the model here. Rip through our games that we like. We'll start with Atlanta, headed to Dallas. Daniel Gafford, someone we've been talking about a lot. It seems like the public is now starting to catch up on the Gafford movement as well. This has seemed his PRA has seemed a lot.
Yeah, it was 19.5 at less juice than minus 125 this morning. So it's gone up. And yeah, we were talking before the show, even his double-double value is not that great considering he doesn't get a lot of double-doubles. Because the big reason is his minutes are actually much lower in Dallas than they were in Washington. 26.5 in Washington, 21.3 in Dallas. Partly because, initially he had some period stretches in Dallas where he wasn't playing much. But it's interesting, his points, rebounds, and assists have basically the same. He actually averages more points in Dallas because, he's super efficient with the scorers they have on the perimeter. He can get just a bunch of dunks and layups. So the model's at 22.5. He has stronger home trend than road. Higher average last month, as he's become essentially starting center for Dallas. So he's at near around 23. And Atlanta, they allow more points per game with no rest. They played last night. But Atlanta's playing well. They won 6 of the last 7 because they've been doing a good job rebounding, out-rebounding opponents 5 of the last 7. Dallas has been rebounding the ball well as well. So I think that with Atlanta's front court, they need Gafford to play, his normal 25 minutes for his rebounding. And I think that his efficiency will get him to this 22, 23.
Is there any, if you go back to the lineup here for Clint Capella, does he play poorly on a back-to-back, or do you think there's maybe a chance to go back to him tonight, maybe a buy low spot?
Yeah, I don't think he's played poorly. He's on my list because he only had 11. He had 7 points in the first half. The number was 11.5. He finished with 11. So I just, gave him the cold shoulder this morning when I was looking for picks. But that's fair. I don't think there's any concern about back-to-backs with him.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair enough. I don't think there's any question. Oh, here we go. Capella double-double has hit the last 2 games.
We're projecting a double-double just based on his average per sim. So depending on with the numbers, maybe Jake could find it faster than I could.
Yeah, well, it's different.
It's plus 100, even money, best price for double-double, which isn't great.
It's not great, especially since it's all like yesterday his matchup was against Jalen Duren. And that he's going to play a lot of minutes against Jalen Duren. And Gafford's more of a different kind of big. It's not like a traditional 5. And so it could affect Capella's minutes. So I don't love it as much. I really liked it yesterday.
I see some questions. DeJounte Murray, we only have 2.5 turnovers projected for him. He's been turning over the ball a lot recently, but he's typically not a high turnover point guard. He averages 2.5. So I'm always actually about players who have been struggling in an area, but typically don't. Like, this is where coaching comes in, and coaches saying, "Hey, careful with the ball," and all of a sudden that's all it takes for a guy to get back to his normal.
Yeah, I gotta talk about our boy Flynn over here, who dropped 50 points off the bench yesterday. It's funny because we were talking about the Raptors and who was going to step up with all the injuries. Grady Dick did go over his point total. I don't think it was anything. I don't think I looked after the fourth quarter, but I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I didn't know what race he was until yesterday.
Well, Moose is into it. He's been traded twice this year. And he was good at that San Diego State team that was going to be like the number 1 overall seed before COVID canceled that season when they were like 30-0. But yeah, that was, I think, that or the Corey Brewer when he was on Minnesota going for 51 points. Those are like the 2 most random 50-point games I can remember.
Yeah, there was a guy named going back. He was drafted by the Miami Heat in his rookie first game. He scored upper 40s or maybe 50, and then he never played really barely any after that. I can't believe I'm blanking. I'm usually so good in my early 90s basketball.
It makes you feel better. I'm not going to know who it is anyway, so you can make up the name.
God, I know the name. It'll come to me.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. We got a question on Luka here. His point prop 34.5. Is that his points? I think it is.
Yeah, it has to be. We have 30. We have 33.7. So triple double. I don't know what the line is, but we certainly have a major projection for him. But we are actually under his 54.5 points, rebounds, and assist line. So we probably don't have value on a triple double.
Yeah,
I looked at the
best
double earlier.
line 255. What book is that? I don't even know what book that is. So like the most thing that is Play Eagle. I've never even heard of that. The books that are like reputable, I'd say Bet Rivers plus 225 is the best value.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's move on here. We'll go over to Philly, headed to Miami. A lot of game time decisions coming from the Sixers side, so maybe you want to stay off them, but we're looking at a heat prop over here.
Yeah, so with the model, I mean, we liked New York the other day and Miami, and they did tie it up at 92 before they got blown out at the very end. If Embiid plays, we and Maxey and Harris, that are all game time decisions, we'd actually lean Philly in this spot, but until we know for sure, we can't recommend it. I am going to go with Bam Adebayo under 13.5 rebounds and assists at plus money. The model's at 12.2. I am fading the season trends. The season trends are all point to over, right? But, his last game against East Valley, he only had 9 rebounds and 1 assist. But the biggest thing is since 2019, before that, the previous matchups with Embiid, Adebayo had under 20 minutes. So I'm not even including those. But he's only averaging 11.6 in 8 games. The under is 6-2. So I'm thinking that if Embiid plays, then maybe this trend will hold. If Embiid doesn't play and Philly loses by a lot, maybe there's a good chance that Bam's sitting in the fourth quarter. So there could be 2 scenarios, positive and negative for Miami, that benefit this under pick.
Sounds like you can't lose. It's a win-win.
Well, there's that middle zone where it's a close competitive game and Bam is playing well.
Can't root for that.
Right? Yeah. There's that middle 48% chance. So, but it is plus money. So, yeah,
that makes way too much sense. All right, let's move on to Sacramento, headed to New York. New York coming off a pretty ugly loss to Miami the other night. Josh Hart, 3 field goal attempts in 40 minutes of basketball. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to Harrison Barnes here to have a turnover.
One quick note about the Knicks. I saw Julius Randle is out for the rest of the season. And, in our model, they're actually doing nearly as well without him. Because with around, just under 3% chance of winning the whole thing, which is decent value. I think their odds implied a 2.5% chance last I checked. But it does assume that Hart, McBride, Brunson, DiVincenzo can continue playing like every minute of every game. And OG Anunoby, most importantly, comes back healthy, which these are big assumptions that you can't necessarily have, especially OG. Something's wrong, Jake. He's not coming back like healthy for stretches. But
he's questionable today still, but I think he's probably more doubtful than anything.
But if these guys will probably break minutes records for teammates, I think at least post All-Star break. Harrison Barnes over half a turnover. This was minus 175 before. It's down to minus 165. The model is around 75% chance of a turnover versus implied odds of 62%. With Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter out, his minutes are secure. There were times for most of the season where, especially when all 3 were available, they'd have like 20 minutes, 32 minutes, depending on whether they, came out hitting a 3 or not. But now I feel good about his minutes. His over rate is significantly higher this year on the road than it is at home. And by low value, he has 0 turnovers last 2 games. And historically at MSG, it's 12 games with nearly a 1.8 average and a 10-2 over.
Whoa, MSG,
tries
not
too
his
hard
friend.
in Madison Square Garden. Yeah, much like many
Don't
of
they
us.
all?
Like
Yes,
me, myself, when I was 26 and single in New York, I tried too hard and turned it over quite a bit.
I wonder also why he played when UNC had a game at MSG to open up the season, and they had a terrible game, and that just stuck with him. Now every time he plays at MSG, since his college
was that
days.
early in his career when he came off a game where he was like 12 for 12? And then everyone in the world was talking, because he was the high school player of the year. Everyone was talking about how awesome Harrison Barnes was. I remember Doug Gottlieb saying, I can't imagine him ever having a bad shooting night because his form's so good. And then he was like 1 for 12 the next night, and it may have been the MSG game.
I'm seeing a lot of questions. Seeing a lot of questions about DeAndre Fox all over the board. So let's just rip through any type of value we have or don't have on him and his projections.
We have almost exact same PRA. I wonder what his turnover line is. There might be value on his turnovers because he's not a high turnover player. And I don't see over 2.5, but it's pretty steep -185. But we are projecting because again, turnovers aren't necessarily you're a bad player. It could just mean you're playing a lot and you have the ball in your hands a lot and you're a point guard. So we have a lot of overs in terms of the line, but the juice is pretty high, at least on this consensus book of -154 over his 5.5. Steals at -135. So most of our so there could be line value. So we would, if you like his overs, we would agree, just not wholeheartedly.
We don't disagree.
Yes,
is a better way to put it. All right. I think that's all there was for this game here. We can move on, go to Golden State, headed to Houston. I know someone was asking about any value on Curry here.
Again, not on his PRA there. At this point in the season, tight lines are so tight, especially with the star players. And especially if our model doesn't have much value on the spread or total, that means that our projected team total are going to be pretty similar, and most of the key players' stats are going to be pretty similar. So rebounds, I like Curry. I've had a couple good picks on Curry over 3.5 rebounds on the road because I believe he averages more rebounds on the road than at home. At least he did at one point. And that average is over 4. And last year it was like 6. So that could be intriguing. Yeah, but maybe assists and rebounds could be a good number, a good number because his points probably won't be. Right. The guy I like on this team is Andrew Wiggins because the number was 12.5. I got 12.5 last game. He cruised to that with a 23-point game. Except for this 4-point dud he had against San Antonio, he's been scoring like he was last year. So last year, this line would have been 16.5. He was 35-15 over 13.5 last season. Last 4 games against Houston, he's averaged over 20 points. Last 8 games, he's right around 17 points a game. So I think that we can fade his season trend where he started so horribly shooting the ball this season. He's coming in 9-3 over, and like I said, and he has a higher average on the road than at home.
Yeah, I can't believe this line hasn't moved yet. I wonder,
even the half some spot. Yeah, it's 13.
I just mean even like opening line.
Yeah. You would think that I would have thought that it would have gone up from the 12.5 2 days ago. But
thank you, Jake, for your extensive research of MSG. Barnes has had 2 turnovers in his one college game there. You're so good, Jake.
Another shorter game. Yeah. How did he shoot, Jake? Was that the bad shooting game?
He went 3 for 9 against Rutgers in MSG.
And that was not a good Rutgers basketball team, I don't think. But
I don't know. Probably not.
Has Rutgers ever had a good team?
Rutgers has a couple of good teams. I mean, they have 2 of the top 3 recruits in the country going to Rutgers next year, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. They have Dylan Harper, Ron Harper's other son, and Ace Bailey. So they're going to be pretty. And Dylan Harper was the MVP of the McDonald's game the other day.
I thought it was the guy going to Maryland.
They shared MVP, Derek Queen and Dylan Harper. Yeah.
Ron Harper had a sweet dunk in 1987 where he bounced the ball on one side of the rim, hits the backboard, he comes over and dunks. Back then, 35 years ago, it was awesome. Now it's like I go to like a park down the street and see somebody do it. But anyway, I digress.
Update on the my Pirates O'Neal Cruz homer. He had a hit, got to first, so at least we're making contact with the ball. That's a better start than last night. Yeah. I'll take that.
I just hit my Brian Reynolds over 1.5 total bases. First at bat of the game. I'll take that.
Where was that for the team, Jake? Where was that for the team?
There was no value. There was. I did a post. He had home run value, so I didn't get.
Your opinion is value. That's what I'll say. Your personal brain is also value to me.
Were you a kid who just didn't share the ball? When you're to the park and it's time for you to go home, you just grabbed it and it's time for me to leave.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, we got one more game to get through here. We'll go to Denver, headed to the Clippers. I know someone was asking about Jokic here. Let me find it. Yeah, his
over
boards.
13 rebounds.
Yeah,
we only have 11 rebounds projected. I think Zubac, 11 does seem kind of low, but yeah, because the last 2 games he's been boarding. I think what it is before those 2 games he was 10, 9, 11, but we don't like the over. I'll put my line.
Long story short.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we like?
James Harden. So he is not looking very good. I'm not a Harden fan, but 15.5 points. Just the number was minus 105 earlier today. If he scores under 20, then this will be his 13th straight game under 20. And usually he doesn't do that unless he wants to trade or something. He gains 20 pounds and does everything else. So he wants to be there. Yeah. So I just still think he has enough gas in the tank to eventually have at least a 16-point game, especially with Kawhi out. So the last 2 games that Kawhi hasn't played, he only had 6 and 13, but over 7 games, he's still averaging over 18 points this year when Kawhi doesn't play. His home average is a little bit higher. Again, the model's only projecting what, is below what his season average is. You buy low on 2 and 10 stretch. So other point guards with similar point per game averages are Darius Garland, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, Fred VanVleet. I believe all have been all-stars. But they averaged 12.2 with a 1-3 over at Denver. But when Denver is the visiting team, they've averaged 23.2 with 4-0 over.
Whoa.
So that can't lose.
I saw I'm pretty sure Harden to get 20-plus points is plus 240 on DraftKings. I saw someone play that on Twitter, or X or whatever you want to call it.
This is basically the E equals MC squared of prop
yes.
bet. It's not. It's going to take a while for people to prove it and to validate it, but when they do, it'll go down in the history books. They'll make
we'll be the first.
Stuff.
Yeah. All right. Quick little day here. For the team, we'll take a little recap screen here of the NBA props that we are on and the Big Hoss Parlay. I will also be going over that probably tomorrow as well to complement some of Jake's picks. But bring your final 4 questions. We'll have a big Q&A tomorrow talking about all of the games. Maybe we do some futures into the championship, dare I say. Maybe some future picks there. Maybe some score predictions. I don't know. Maybe we'll get crazy. I'm going to think about it. But nonetheless, good luck with your bets tonight. Let's hope O'Neal Cruz hits a bomber as well as Bobby Witt to pay for everything for me to go to Phoenix. So I know that's no one's agenda but mine, but I could use some prayers. So with that, have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.